Then we'll begin. Hello everybody! Good morning, good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you are. And today I have a beautiful assistant. What's your name?
Felix.
Where'd you come from?
This house.
Because we're going to talk about World Book Day costumes and costumes in general. So Felix and his brother Bertie are going to do some beautiful modelling for us, and I'm going to show you costumes I've made in the past and then tell you about what we're going to be doing for World Book Day, which is in about... And Teddy's joining in, which is in about 10 days time. So Felix is going to hold up the books, aren't you? Shall I hold Teddy? So the first costume we're going to show you is a knight costume. Hold up. And the book we've got for that one is a castles book. So if your favourite book is about knights and castles, then you could wear a knight costume. I'm going to shrink us into the corner of the screen, and then we'll watch Felix showing you his knight costume. So the knight costume, it's a helmet that we bought from the toy shop. It cost about £3 or something, and then it's a tabard which Felix was wearing. It has a Velcro opening here because when he was very little...
Mummy made it.
Yeah, obviously. I made everything.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Apart from the helmet.
I didn't make the helmet. Felix didn't like pulling things over his head too much when he was littler, so we had a little tab there. But it also has elastic at the side, but it's basically just a tunic. It was made out of an old blind, so that I didn't have to finish the edges. And then to make this, we cut out a shield shape. We sewed that on.
And then we just sewed it on.
And then Felix chose a dragon. Actually, this is is it a griffin when you mix a lion and an eagle? I think it is. A griffin shape. And we, one of Daddy's old running tops. We cut that out and we ironed on a applique glue. Glued it on with the iron and then sewed around the edges. So that's how you can get a really complicated shape without having to have too much skill in sewing. Thank you, Teddy. So the next costume we're going to show you started out life as a bat costume, and yes, it was a Halloween costume, but if you adapt this costume it could also be an owl costume. So this is one of our favourite books called I'm Not Cute, and this is another of our favourite books called
Admire.
And here's another of our favourite books called
Owl Babies.
Owl Babies, and another of our favourite books called The Owl Who Was Afraid of the Dark. So you'll see with this costume... Thank you, Teddy. Where's the costume gone? So this costume was an extremely quick... I've changed my mind on Halloween. I don't want to be what I was going to be. And it was his brother, wasn't Felix. It was Bertie originally, even though Felix is modelling the costume because he's the right size for it now. So I had to make this in, I don't know, about half an hour or something.
I took a while to tell them the name of the costume.
So it's basically a jumpsuit. It's in 4 pieces. The front was in 2 halves, made out of fake fur. Note to self, fake fur is really itchy on the inside, and I did get quite a lot of complaints about that. But we made it look quite bat-like by having it really big and baggy around here.
And we had wings.
Yeah, I haven't finished that. Really big and baggy around here, and then gathered it in at the sort of just below the knee. And then, as Felix was saying, what do we have on the back?
Wings.
Wings. So they're sewn on at the sort of the top of the shoulder blades.
They're cut fabric.
Yeah.
In zigzag, and then flat at the top.
Yeah, it's folded in half, isn't it? Flat at the top,
Yeah.
zigzags down the side, and then literally just a hand-sized, small hand-sized hole there for them to put their hands through.
I'll do it.
So
No.
extremely simple but very effective. And you could definitely make that into an owl costume if you used a different colour fur. For if you're doing a barn owl like this one, you'd have a white tummy, wouldn't you? And then you could quite easily, this is sort of a net fabric. If you cut lots of tiny bits of net, you could add feathers onto the back and it would look really great. It would take a little bit longer, but it wouldn't take that long.
It would take a lot longer.
Alright, it would take a lot longer. How long?
I think about 1 day.
Take a whole day?
Yeah.
Okay, you really want to be an owl then.
Because you would stick it on there.
Yeah.
And you would have to be really careful with your cutting.
You would, although you could do feathers quite tatty and so they were all fluttery on the edges. Depends whether you were going for a neat owl or a raggedy owl.
Yeah.
Okay.
An owl that had flown through a tree.
What's our next costume?
Guy of Gisborne, but we don't have the cape on.
No. So Felix is modelling a costume that we made for Guy of Gisborne, who is a character from Robin Hood, isn't he? Now we don't actually have the book for Robin Hood. This we made for a school production, and Felix's brother Bertie was Guy of Gisborne.
Yeah.
And the main thing about the costume was that he had to look like he was really rich and that he was worth robbing, because the whole point of his role in the play was that he got held up by Robin Hood and had all his money taken. So that's why it's got all the gold pieces on the front. And I'll show you.
We'll show you the costume.
Yeah.
Now.
So you've seen Felix wearing it, and it had all the gold pieces on the front. Now I had terrible trouble with this because when I originally made it, it had gold pieces in all the spaces that there are now gaps. But Bertie's a bit of a fiddle fingers, and during the production I watched him pull off several of the pieces while he was on stage.
Yeah.
It was all I could do to not run up and go, "Stop pulling my costume to bits!" Not really.
You didn't really say
But-
that, did you?
No, I didn't really, but I wanted to. So these, the way these work, I'll show you. It's a bit of pretend leather on a jersey backing. There you go. These are just squares, completely not hemmed, and then these are studs which have teeth on the back that you push through and push in. So they haven't, I'd never used them before, and they haven't been the most robust. Thank you, Teddy. They haven't been the most robust of things, but it lasted the performance reasonably well, and so it was good enough for one go, but it's not particularly robust. And look, there's one. One's just fallen off while I've been telling you about them. So there you go. That's what they look like. A square with a stud in them, but ideally the teeth of those studs goes all the way through the costume and they don't fall off.
Yeah.
So, next costume. What is it, Teddy?
Gandalf the White.
Gandalf the White from Lord of the Rings. Ta-da! So I'll show you our inspiration pictures, because Bertie was very particular that he wanted to be Gandalf the White, not Gandalf the Grey. So that's Gandalf the Wizard after he comes back from his time in the darkness. After he comes back from fighting the Balrog, yes. So it was again a tunic. Can you see a theme to how I make costumes? It was a tunic, but a very long tunic. And you might see when Bertie's moving around in it, had to put
There's something for it.
put a split at the front and a split at the side so he could walk into it. He wore a white t-shirt underneath. It had a fancy clasp at the front.
And he had a fake beard.
On the day he had a wig, which he absolutely hated wearing, and it lasted about 5 minutes and then it went in the bin. Because he doesn't like wearing stuff on his head. So we haven't even got the wig anymore. So the best thing about the Gandalf costume, I think, and Bertie thought, was the staff. It wasn't the sewing bit at all. Now this was made by cutting out some, you could use cardboard, we used corrugated plastic because we had some. 3 pieces, 1, 2, 3, and then there's a lot of masking tape on here. And at the time it had a really long stick that was as tall as Bertie, so it was the right size for the staff from the inspiration pictures you've seen. Now this looks really battered because it's seen a lot of action. Bertie has played and played and played with this until the stick snapped, and he still plays with it. So there you go, a bit of plastic, a stick and some masking tape was very effective for that staff. Our next costume is, this is the best one I've ever done for Felix. This was last World Book Day. The book is called
The Day the Crayons Quit.
And Felix.
And I did have a sign that said...
So Felix was the crayon and he had a sign that said, "Down with this sort of thing." So if you don't
But we still have the sign, but we don't have the stick it was on.
Yeah, we didn't. I kept the sign because I want to put it on the wall, but we got rid of the stick because I didn't need it on the stick. If you don't know this book and you've got kids, you need to know this book because it's really funny. It's very good. It's about the crayons get really sick of their owner Duncan not colouring properly, and they all decide to go on strike.
But then there is another one, which is called The Day the Crayons Came Home, which is about other crayons.
All the ones he's lost.
Yeah, forgotten. And
Or the dog's eaten them.
Yeah, or a dog's eaten them.
Yeah.
Or they've been left behind.
And he eventually makes a crayon fort for them, doesn't he?
Yeah, because they were differently shaped and they didn't fit in the crayon box.
Yes, very good. 2 really good books. And Felix wanted to be green crayon, which I thought was an excellent idea. So the costume that you've seen Felix modelling was essentially a tube, because that's what a crayon is. He got into it by there being some Velcro up here and a zip down there. So that's how he got
something
into
to go on my head, but I don't know where
yeah,
it's
we'll
gone.
find that. And there was an armhole at the other side, so it was 2 rectangles, a zip and Velcro, and quite stiff fabric.
Like a space.
Yeah, quite stiff fabric so that it would stand up over his shoulders, so it kept the tube shape up here, and then the hat is over there. So
we will show. I will wear the hat.
of course,
so
you
you
can't be a crayon if you don't have a crayon-shaped head. So you'll have seen Felix in the modelling the hat. I was very proud of this because the spike of it is held up with corset boning. Look at him. You look so funny. You spent the day writing on people when you were a crayon, didn't you? I just want to turn it inside out for people to see.
Someone with a paper.
Someone else was a piece of paper apparently, and so he spent the day writing on him last year. So here you go. So inside, the top of it was made with a part circle and then folded into a cone shape. But then in 3 different places I just sewed on corset boning, which I happen to have because I've made corsets, as you do. But it's very, very easy to find online and not at all expensive. It's quite flexible, so it's not going to stick into anyone, but it's also very stiff. So you had an excellent end to your crayon, didn't you?
Yeah.
And so...
Otherwise it would have been maroon crayon, which is in the second one.
Well, I guess you could also do it if you stuffed the top with like toy stuffing, couldn't you?
Yeah.
But it might be quite hot to wear that. So this was... And was it quite comfortable to wear as it goes?
It was a bit itchy though.
But you managed it, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At some points in the day I just took it off so all the itchiness would go away.
I don't mind you taking it off.
And
It's
then
all
I
right.
put it back on.
And then we come to the favourite costume I've ever made, because I was very impressed with myself with this one. The book, it's the first World Book Day one we did, I think. The book is Skyscrapers. So remember, for World Book Day, it doesn't have to be a fiction book, it can be non-fiction. And Bertie, Felix's big brother, is super into skyscrapers. And so he said, Mummy, I want to be the Chrysler Building. Obviously, of course you do. Why wouldn't you want to be the Chrysler Building? So we made the Chrysler Building.
You can like that.
And we didn't just make the Chrysler Building, we made the Chrysler Building with actual working lights. So here we go. I'll show you the secret of how it works. It's some of those battery powered fairy lights, and we light them up and we turn them off, and we light them up and we turn them off.
You can see the difference
It's a lot
in the
more
video,
simple.
can't you?
It's a lot more simple than you might think. This is a black t-shirt, silver lame fabric, which I then sewed the shape of the Chrysler Building. I had to draw a pattern, so I drew a pattern on paper, then sewed the shape of the Chrysler Building. Then on the back of that, 1 solid panel of organza. And then that got sewed onto the t-shirt, and I left space just to feed through the lights so that they shine in each window. And the bottom is black fabric with grey windows ironed on, so no sewing there at all. Then the back is done in a very similar way, but there are no working windows, so there's still the window shape, but the lights don't work.
Mummy, The one bad thing about it is you can actually see the wires through them.
They're never happy. Yeah, you can see the wires.
Yeah, and there's a hole.
And there's a hole. This World Book Day costume is nearly 3 years old, so the fact that A, it still works, and there's only one tiny hole, I think that's a success, not a fail, personally.
Yeah, success.
Yeah. So I love that one. So there's a little secret pocket for the battery pack. There's a little secret pocket inside.
Secret pocket.
There we go. That we just pop that in, and then when he's wearing it, he can reach inside and either turn it on or off. So those are the costumes we've made in the past, and for this year,
I will tell you what I'm going to do.
Felix is going to be
Yoda!
Yoda from Star Wars, because we've got a Star Wars book.
If you don't know Star Wars, you should see it.
You've probably been living in a cave for the last 30 years if you don't know about
Or
Star Wars.
under a rock.
Yeah, maybe. And Bertie wants to be Newt Scamander from J.K. Rowling's Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
That's very new. If you haven't
Yes.
seen it, that's very likely.
Yes, and that is going to be... Felix's costume is going to be like a dungarees or jumpsuit with a cloak over the top and some Yoda ears.
I'll
And
actually
the
be face painted green.
And he's going to be face painted green. The Newt Scamander costume
It's
is going to
basically
involve
just gonna
a
be
waistcoat. It's going to be a blue kind of frock coat over the top. School trousers. I'm not making trousers as well, but I'm going to do a video about making those. And I'll show you a picture of our inspiration picture. So that's still to come. So we've done World Book Day past, and we will show you World Book Day present. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll be back very soon with costume progress and adult sewing eventually when I get time.
Yeah.
One day. Bye!